Friends, God has brought the world to us in international students and scholars who have come to study here. Nations that have seemed far away have come close. People groups that have been unreached with the good news of Jesus Christ have come close. And the world leaders, the future world leaders, have come close. Yes, God has brought the nations close. Now, I want you to help me emphasize this truth tonight. And so what I'd like you to do is to repeat this expression with me whenever I raise my hand like this. So let's go ahead and give it a try. God has brought the nations close. Very good, very good. Now, those of you who didn't do it, next time you participate, let's do it enthusiastically. The book of Acts contains the stories of people reached away from home. It contains the story of God's advance of the gospel. Acts chapter 8 has the story of an Ethiopian man, the treasure of his country, who traveled a long distance to come to Jerusalem. He came very close to Christians. He was seeking the Lord, but he didn't hear the good news. God, in his mercy, sent Philip to him on the desert road to share the good news with him, and he opened his heart and received it. God has brought the nations close. Acts chapter 9 contains the story of the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was from Tarsus in present-day Turkey, and he traveled to Jerusalem to study under Gamaliel. And we know the story, you all know the story of Paul's conversion on the Damascus Road. And then God wanted to send Ananias to him. But Ananias was reluctant. Fortunately, he obeyed the Lord and went and prayed for Paul and also baptized him. God has brought the nations close. Acts chapter 10 contains the story of Cornelius, the Roman soldier, stationed away from home in Caesarea, somewhat close to where Peter was. God gave Cornelius this amazing vision and told him to go and call for Peter to come to his house. And Peter needed a vision on a rooftop to be able to go, but fortunately he obeyed. He found Cornelius and his family ready to receive the good news of the gospel. God has brought the nations close. Acts chapter 16 tells the story of a woman named Lydia, a businesswoman who was from Thyatira in Asia Minor. And she was 240 miles away from home in the city of Philippi. She went down to the river, and there was the Apostle Paul, who saw the opportunity to go and share with her. And she opened her heart to the good news. God has brought the nations close. Notice that each of these stories that I told you contains internationals away from home who come very close to Christians, but not all the way. God then sends Christians to specifically go to them to share the good news. God sent Philip to the Ethiopian. He sent Ananias to Paul. He sent Peter to Cornelius. He sent Paul to Lydia. Brothers and sisters, this is the calling on us. And God has sent over 6,000 internationals to Columbus, Ohio to study. And as you heard, 89% of these students come from nations that have a very small percentage of Christians. In fact, many of them are coming from nations with less than 1% Christians. There would be international students at OSU who are coming from places where a group this size would have no Christians in it. A campus the size of Ohio State would have no Christians in it. A city the size of Columbus might have no Christians in it. While God has sent these students close by, now God is calling us to go to them. We are to be the Philips. We are to be the Ananiases, the Pauls. We are to be the Peters of our day. The Spirit of God is calling the church in Columbus to be the ones that hear the Spirit of God telling us, go to that chariot and stay near it. And this is the mission of IFI, to extend life-changing hospitality and friendship to international students out of reverence for Jesus. Every time a Christian in Columbus opens their home, opens their life, opens their heart to internationals, and out of that shares the good news of Jesus, they are giving a picture of the gospel. Because the gospel is about us being invited into the family of God, being welcomed into the house of God where we can stay forever, being at the banqueting table where Jesus himself will serve us. And every time international students experience this and open their heart to Jesus, that is what we call life-changing hospitality. Recently, I went to the airport to pick up a new international student, brought him to his host family's home, where they welcomed him to stay for a few days when he was getting adjusted. They also helped him in many practical ways, including helping to furnish his apartment that was unfurnished at the time. After his experience with the host family, this international from Nigeria wrote me a text and said, "Rich, this is the definition of a miracle." Now, I'm not sure he had a technically right definition, but I understood he was talking about a life-changing experience that he was having. One day when I was on campus at a table offering free Bibles to internationals, a man stopped by and he said, I thought that when I was in the United States I should learn something about the Bible. And I engaged him in conversation. I learned he was from Nepal, and I began to study the Bible with him, and I found out he was an advisor in his country. And I said, "Who do you advise?" He said, "I advise the king of my country." And I thought, this could be a modern-day Nehemiah who whispers into the ear of the king the word of God. The Ethiopian eunuch was the first to bring the good news to Africa. And Cornelius, when he received the good news, was opening up a whole new frontier among the Gentiles. And the Apostle Paul, we know, was so greatly used to advance the gospel. And Lydia, her home became the place where the church in Philippi began. Today, God is using returned international students to advance the gospel among the nations into places where it has not gone before. And our vision at IFI is to see God's love extended globally in partnership with spiritually vibrant international students. I'm in regular contact with a returned student who went back to China, who is part of our IC discipleship training program. She has led her family to Christ, begun a house church. She is sharing Christ with her co-workers, discipling those who come to Christ. She's reaching out to an unreached people group in China. She's sharing what she learned for the healing of people in China and India. She's having a powerful impact. I'm also in regular contact with Yasser from the Sudan, who was trained as part of our ministry and returned. And since his return, he has planted 9 churches in Muslim areas, and he's getting ready to launch the 3rd Christian school in his country that will be welcoming 150 refugee girls who otherwise would not have an opportunity to receive an education or hear the good news. God brought Yasser close. He brought my friend from China close so that those who are far away can hear the good news. On Friday nights, there are many IFI Bible study groups. In my Bible study group, I have internationals from India, and Iran, and Iraq, and Pakistan, and other places where people usually do not have an opportunity to hear the good news of Jesus. So let's say it one more time. God has brought the nations close. Yes, he's brought them close so that those who are far away can hear the good news of Jesus. Let's hear this call of God to go to them. Let's not hesitate like Ananias and Peter did. Let's be like Philip, who ran to the chariot. Let's be like Paul, who saw the opportunity down by the river to share the good news with Lydia. Let's rejoice in this opportunity that God is giving to the church in Columbus to welcome, befriend, and share the good news with international students. Let us be a part of fulfilling the Great Commission in our day and age. Let's be a part of blessing all the nations.